This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Hi friends, it's Orktober, and I'm sure that everyone else is making orc content, so as a loyal Imperial, I must prepare for this onslaught. So today, we're talking about one of my most favorite, and one of the most, if not the most iconic guard regiments, or at least one point they were, the Steel Legion. The Armageddon Steel Legion is a legendary regiment, especially famed for their formidable mechanized regiments that they owe their namesake to. Throughout the Imperium, mechanized regiments are relatively rare since, for many commanders and governors, it's hard to amass enough vehicles to stock such regiments. Which means, yeah, even in 40k, people are facing stocking issues for their armies. But the Steel Legion gets around this by living on Armageddon, aka Chimera Factory the planet. And Armageddon was once the legendary world of Olenor, but it got teleported across the galaxy by the Mechanicum, don't ask, and eventually became the horrible place that we all know and love. Since then, it has become a highly industrialized hive world with vast factories throughout. And thanks to the pollution of said huge hive cities and vast factories throughout all of Armageddon, the atmosphere of the world is incredibly toxic. So, without proper rebreathers or ventilation, the atmosphere of Armageddon can and will rot the lungs of the people on the world. Which, also, this isn't even really that relevant, but I just wanted to add this here because I'm still scarred from the experience. But I went to a Magic the Gathering store to buy some pretty dice that I saw online, and Jesus Christ, man, it felt like I walked into a Death Guard dinner party in the Armageddon ash wastes. I think my lungs rotted like at least 6% from the mighty stench that I faced. I never actually experienced the smelly 40k store thing for the many years I've been in the hobby. And then the second I walk into a Magic store, I get blasted. But anyways, thanks to this fun little environmental quirk, the people of Armageddon have to wear their stylish gas masks almost constantly. In addition, Armageddon pattern gear and vehicles are also adapted to their evil ass air. Armageddon pattern stuff is often airtight and coated with anti-corrosive paints and sealants. And also, fun fact, even their regimental standards are given proper protective coatings so that they could assert their dominance in typical coolest guy ever fashion. But Armageddon pattern stuff in general is just really good and widely sought after. The people of Armageddon have been manufacturing gear and vehicles for so long that they're incredibly efficient and produce some of the highest quality gear in the Imperium. Due to this, Armageddon Steel Legionnaires are very well supplied. So yeah, beyond being a humongous shithole planet, Armageddon is also one of the most prolific producers of Chimera transports. This means that Armageddon is able to produce hundreds of mechanized regiments both to defend their home and to serve the Emperor across the galaxy. And their mechanized regiments are some of the best, if not the best, regiments around. Steel Legion mechanized regiments are well renowned for overwhelming their enemies with blistering assaults. The legendary Chimera is a rugged transport that safely delivers guardsmen to key locations and then acts as fire support while guardsmen carry out their objectives and finish off any enemies that survive the initial blitz. Through speed, ambush, and massed firepower, the Steel Legion mechanized infantry is often able to punch above their weight with grenade launchers, missile launchers, and of course, a million lasers! Furthermore, each infantry squad having a personal Chimera means that they demonstrate nearly unmatched flexibility due to their ability to rapidly redeploy where needed. And before we get any further, the venerable Chimera protects guardsmen from the various hazards of war as they crash into the fray, but what do you have to protect you from the crazy place that is public networks? Well, you could have Surfshark VPN. That's right, Surfshark is back to sponsor this video. Surfshark is a super fast, secure VPN that blocks ads, lets you change your virtual location on the fly, and most importantly, encrypts your online data to secure your information while you're browsing public networks. I personally use Surfshark almost every day since I write my scripts and draw all these lovely videos at my local cafe where I have to use public Wi-Fis. And Surfshark helps me feel safe that my information won't get stolen by malicious malefactors. And another cool and fun feature of Surfshark is that it lets you change your virtual location. With Surfshark, you can move your virtual self to one of Surfshark's over 3,200 servers in 100 countries. This allows you to watch shows and movies that may be region locked in your country. And this is great because there have been countless times I've been wanting to watch something only to realize it's not available in the US, which is very annoying, obviously. But if you need it even more convincing, they've also got a 30-day money-back guarantee so you can try it out. So if that sounds cool to you, be sure to check out my link in the description, surfshark.com/crackduck, and use code crackduck for an extra 4 months free on your subscription. Huge thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Anyways though, beyond their iconic Chimera squadrons, the Steel Legion also employs artillery and tank regiments to support their mechanized infantry and kill whatever the guardsmen might not be able to. The Steel Legion is also known for employing a lot of stormtroopers. These elite guardsmen are the best Armageddon has to offer and are often set on high-risk operations. Stormtroopers are also a natural match for the mass Chimera assaults since, for relatively the same amount of transport capacity, they bring a lot more firepower and are more resilient thanks to their carapace armor. And then, on the other hand, them having the Chimera means that they can remain highly mobile despite their heavier gear. Plus, Stormtroopers are just badass, so another Armageddon win in the books. Also, coolest dude ever, Captain Andre Valitok, is an Armageddon Stormtrooper, so there's truly no denying that these dudes are badass. Anyways, another somewhat surprising unit that they like to use are the Abhuman Ratlings. I don't really know much more than an old codex saying they like to deploy Ratlings, but Ratlings are known for being mobile sharpshooters, so it's not the most unbelievable thing. Plus, I'm sure you can stuff a bunch of Ratlings in a Chimera thanks to their incredible short person abilities. And so, now we know how they fight good, but who do they fight good? Well, their most hated foes are the Orcs. The Steel Legion's true claim to fame were the massive apocalyptic wars for Armageddon, and at least 2 of the 3-ish, maybe 4 wars for Armageddon were waged against the Greenskins. As such, the Steel Legion is adapted for fighting the Orc menace as well as attrition warfare, as they often have to hold off endless tides of Orcs for extended periods of time. Also, another really cool unit that isn't technically Steel Legion but were made on Armageddon are the Armageddon Orc Hunters. These funky warriors were formed shortly after the Second War for Armageddon by combining the ravaged squads from the war into elite Orc hunting teams. These teams were then sent into the jungles of Armageddon to cull the Orc survivors. At first, they were made up of many disparate guard regiments and couldn't really communicate well due to planetary language barriers, but luckily, the phrase, "kill them all," is a pretty universal concept to guardsmen far and wide. And through many hunts, their new regiment became very adept in fighting the Orcs and have even been noted for utilizing looted greenskin weapons. Which, if you know anything about Orc weapons, this says a lot about the sheer badassery of these guardsmen. But back to the good old Steel Legion, many of their recruits are taken from the gangs of the planet's Hive. This is useful as gangers are conveniently trained in combat from a young age, cause if the children aren't doing crack and fighting rival gangs, then just who will? But anyways, this in conjunction with the absolutely massive population of Armageddon's hives and their bustling industrial capabilities means that they're able to replenish lost guardsmen at an incredible rate, which should honestly have been quite evident considering they contend with the famously endless Orc hordes. But perhaps the ultimate example of this is one of my favorite codex blurbs of the Steel Legion, and honestly one of my favorite blurbs in the whole setting. The Armageddon 339th, known as the Ironheads, forged a legend for themselves in one of Armageddon's great tank forges. This particular tank forge was so massive that a full-scale battle was able to take place within it. This forge was so incredibly huge that basilisk artillery was being used and both sides fought the same as they would in an open field. But the unfathomably massive superstructure forge isn't even what makes the story great. As the Steel Legion were fending off Orcs, the factory workers were assembling tanks and sending them straight to battle. These absolute madmen were Lego Star Wars building tanks in real time to replenish their ranks, while literally being shot at and charged by Orcs. Badass. And there's a bunch of other totally badass Steel Legion moments, but if I described them all, we'd be here all day and I'd run the risk of turning this into a second Yarrick video. Which, speaking of, the Steel Legion works with the coolest guy ever, Sebastian Yarrick. They are peak. But yeah, that's the Steel Legion. These guys are in a perpetual competition with the Destroying Firstborn as my third favorite regiment, and I think it's a real shame that Krieg kind of took their spot as cool gas mask guardsmen and as one of the big three guard regiments. I personally feel that the Steel Legion is a lot cooler than Krieg and does the whole evil ass atmosphere and attrition war thing cooler. Which, also, as far as I can tell, the Krieg did technically come out first as they were in the 3rd edition codex, and them originating as Steel Legion repaints is a little bit of a misconception. However, they were essentially a random throwaway guard regiment for a long time, whereas the Steel Legion was explored very in depth in Codex Armageddon, only to later be replaced, and by replaced, I mean literally replaced as apparently the only named guard regiment in Armageddon 4 are the fucking Death Corps of Krieg. What the hell, man? I was hoping that the 4th War for Armageddon would mean the return of the Steel Legion, but I don't even know anymore. But I don't know. I hope they at least do a made to order. I would buy metal Steel Legion squads so fast. But them getting neglected by GW doesn't detract at all from how cool they are. So, GW can unceremoniously kill all of our cool characters all day, glaze Krieg till the end of time, and I'll still love my yellow gas mask boys, and Yarrick is still alive in my heart. But let me know what you think about the Steel Legion. Are they truly the best gas mask boys, or do they deserve to be forgotten like a fart in the Armageddon ash winds? Let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, let me know your favorite guard regiment also. Also, I should say that I don't even hate Krieg, but them being apparently the only guard regiment mentioned in the new Codex Armageddon is really super duper lame. It would be like if they wrote a story set on Krieg, but only talked about Cadians. Actually insane. But anyways, don't forget to check out Surfshark in the link below and use my code CRACKDUCK for an extra 4 months free on your subscription. Anyways, thank you for watching, and thank you to all my awesome patrons who help the channel grow and help me make cool videos. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your funky chimera riding, gas mask wearing badasses. Thanks. Seriously though, GW, please, oh please do another Steel Legion made to order. I will give you all of my money. I'll even paint some up as Kriegers. I unironically really like the Codex Armageddon Krieg scheme. So please.